Welcome to the United Breakin Association. The association, a nonprofit trade association, is focused on unifying the breaking community. The association was in need of a staff to get things going. The UBA team is highly qualified. Amit, Suzanne, and Scott all come with a great amount of experience. Not to be outdone by the rest of our team, Brad Shear worked at the NFL Players Association and is highly regarded social media expert, and Eric Shatina, who worked at security-focused companies, is highly regarded in the security and the IT side. Last but not least is myself, as the first female attorney to represent NFL players and also collectively represent the women's soccer and softball players. I feel I have a vast experience in the association side. But the most relevant group that I represented to the Breaking Association is the extreme athletes that worked with Disney on the X Games. And we negotiated better terms and conditions for them to perform at the X Games. The agenda for the next few slides will be the introductions, how we came about to the original structure, what is an executive director, how bylaws fit in, the board of directors, and then the next steps. It is important to know that we are not working alone. We have help from Major League Baseball Players Association, AFL-CIO, the NFL, the Basketball Players Association, PGA, WTA, Women's Golf, SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and a whole host of different lawyers that have helped us put together this structure. As any nonprofit association, you must put forth a mission statement. And the mission for the UBA is a professional association created and run by the breaking artists that is dedicated to promoting and protecting and growing the interests of the breaking artists. The three initial goals are incorporating, creating a website, and then membership, voting on the board and the logo. We are in phase 3 in this process. This is one of the most important slides, and it will illustrate how the structure is to start the association. By all means, the structure may be amended as we grow. So the UBA is in the center, and that is the nonprofit trade association. As it grows, it could easily form a for-profit arm to have a tour should the board and the membership require or request something like that. And then there's a foundation that you can run for community outreach focus, like developing areas for practices and things like that in the community. So it's all part of an intricate plan, but it starts with the core, the UBA. The trade association will be run by a board that is elected, and the board will then select the executive director. I am hoping that myself and my team will be your first team under the UBA. So just what does a UBA executive director look like? As you can see, most executive directors are either lawyers or marketers or someone that has a particular interest or passion in that particular association. So if you look at the left, all those players associations and Screen Actors Guild and the like are headed by individuals with those types of backgrounds. The executive director basically carries out the mission statement that the board directs it to carry out. So the qualifications are very easy. Knowledge, neutral, ability to build consensus is critical, and carrying out the board's request that comes from the membership as a whole. So just who are these board of directors? Well, the membership as a whole directly votes for their representative on the board. Currently, we have 9 positions on the board. Now that doesn't mean that in the future, the board could decide to expand the number of board positions. But typically, when you start an association, it is best to start with the smallest board possible so you can move things forward at a quicker pace. So with 9, that's about average within a trade association. The first critical job of the board of directors or the board of representatives must be to look over the bylaws. Now, the volunteer staff and myself have put together bylaws so we can incorporate and move the organization along from a legal standpoint, but the bylaws are clearly a draft. And the first job of the new Board of Representatives is to look over the bylaws and make sure they are going to work as the organization gets started. But by no means are the bylaws etched in stone. Every board member will want to put his or her stamp on where the bylaws go because that will impact how the organization grows. Some of the most important things in bylaws is the name of the association, what its purpose is, how is the code of ethics, and the type of membership. In the initial drafted bylaws, the Board of Representatives is voted in, they have meeting requirements, they have a 2-year term except for the inaugural year, and they can have a removal of a board member as well as a retired board member. And of course, there's rules governing each meeting. As the association grows, the board will grow, and there'll be a need to have meetings on a monthly basis. But what happens in between those months sometimes requires a vote. And so the bylaws allow for an executive board to be created and have the authority to help out between those board meetings that are month to month. Of course, the bylaws also state what is it that the executive director should have as qualifications. And it is most important that the executive director sits on the board but doesn't have a right to vote, because then the director can begin to build consensus on issues that may divide the board. Here are some additional reasons why quite often the executive director sits on the board but doesn't have a right to vote. Of course, there are many other details in the bylaws, like how contracts are made, loans, checks, penalties, violation of the bylaws, and so forth. But it is important that the first board really looks through the bylaws and amends it as needed. The bylaws can also state specific committees that are required to be in existence, like the Rules and Regulations Committee. But any other committee or ad hoc committee can be created on an as-need basis. So just what does this board look like? Initially, we put into the draft we would have 2 legacy members and 7 competitors, and that would make up the UBA board of 9 total board members. So just what do we mean by legacy and competitor members? Most associations that are trade associations start out with 1 or 2 types of members, and they grow as the organization grows. We anticipate the membership types growing, but to start, we thought we would walk before we run, and we have a legacy type, and then we have a competitor type. Having these 2 types of memberships will help us take the current status, which is the OGs and the competitors sort of not bringing up the younger generation, to switch it to the future status where everyone is helping each other up the ladder and bringing everyone up as a whole together. So in essence, if you help the middle group, the top will move up simultaneously as well as the others near the bottom. It is important to know that we're not looking at changing the community, but enhancing the community. So currently, artists that are in commercials, music videos, event gigs, and competitions and schools can do exactly what they're doing, or they can join the UBA and really begin an outreach effort, create perhaps a tour, maybe bring in larger sponsorship, a television deal. These are things that will be created in addition to what's going on, but it won't take away from what's going on in the community now. Anytime you put together an association, one of the most important things to do after the bylaws is to really look at a strategic plan. The strategic plan is typically 5 years out or 3 years out, and it begins to develop how the mission and the goal is going to be carried out. Quite often, the initial step is to do a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Once this is accomplished by the board, we can begin to develop a strategic plan that will meet its goals. Once you have your goals set, you have to determine the budget you have to meet those goals, and that will be another important step for the Board of Representatives. So just like the skateboarders and the BMXers, they looked at their art as an art and not a sport. But when ESPN created the X Games, they realized if they package it as a sport, the mainstream sponsors and the mainstream demographics will come to the event and help support it financially. Currently, the X Games makes millions of dollars, and we hope we can replicate that process. It is important to understand that the packaging of a sport and the marketing and the potential revenue stream is critical to support the whole community in its efforts. But it is also important to know that the art itself will remain the same for those artists that don't want to compete. Some potential revenue streams can be creating a tour, licensing the logo of the UBA, and maybe collectively taking the images of the members under a group licensing agreement, which is a GLA, and also fostering the website and its traffic for additional sponsors. Although the tour has gotten a lot of attention, it is just an idea, and it will have to be formulated from the grassroots up. The two types of revenue streams are either licensing the UBA logo itself or collectively getting the images together of the members and licensing those images collectively to potential sponsors. In most player associations, they have affiliation with different sponsors, what we call mainstream sponsors, that collectively license the images of the athletes. This is a perfect example how McDonald's embraced the NFL Players Association license that they granted them for a group of athletes together on different products. Not only does the NFL Players Association make a licensing fee, but the individual athletes also reap an individual benefit as well. The UBA logo is very plain and simple. We don't want to compete against other logos that are out there that are very graphic, that are associated with crews. When you look at other associations that created logos, you can understand how simple they are. When picking a logo for the UBA, we looked at various different types of logos that are out there and how you can replicate it easily. We also embraced different dance logos to incorporate that movement and that flow from the breaking community. All UBA members have a chance to vote on the logo. Please join the UBA. Although we're volunteering countless hours to help put this association together, we are looking forward to being your first team under the UBA. Please check out our website, unitedbreaking.org, for a host of different information as well as top resources for the members. And of course, please join so you can have access to many of the resources that are coming. We have many steps to take, and we've taken several. We need your help. We hope you can join and build our membership. There's power in unification. You can make a difference for artists that compete today and the future. Please join the UBA today.